Welcome to another Spot On Chat. I'm Rebecca Monet with Zorakle Profiles. Zorakle provides profiling tools to franchisors and franchise consultants that helps facilitate a right fit between a prospective franchisee and a franchise concept. My guest today is Tim Vogel. Tim is the founder and CEO of Scenthound. He's also a seed planter, growth seeker, possibility purveyor, and process-driven optimist. So welcome to the show, Tim.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
I love when we have conversations because you are one of those people that always makes me think, bigger, different, unique. And so I love our conversations.
Great. Me too.
So the first question I have for you is around your favorite question. And I understand your favorite question is, what is your superpower? So why is that your favorite question? And then, of course, I'm going to ask you, what's your superpower?
Yeah, I just think it's a great question to kind of get at the source of an individual. And so I think, as you're looking for people to join your team or get to better understanding of somebody, it's really a good window into kind of what they think their skill is. It also is a really kind of great window into their level of self-awareness and level of self-discovery, right? And so are they asking the right questions of themselves? And do they really understand what they're really good at, what their talents are, in aligning kind of, if they're looking for a job with you, really aligning those skills with the open role that you have. And I think it puts people in a position to really shine and really kind of talk about themselves, but it also puts them on the spot a little bit to say,
yeah.
Have you really thought much about this? And do you have any, kind of a deep level of self-awareness around what you're really good at and what you're not really good at? And so I think, as I've kind of matured and evolved over the years, I've gotten clearer and clearer on what I'm really good at, which helps me really get clearer and clearer on what I'm not good at. And so then I'm really able to apply myself in the most effective way and really avoid things that are kind of a time waster where it's easy for someone else. They could spend very little time, a little energy doing it. And for me, it's a lot of energy and a lot of time. And so that's just not the place I want to put myself.
So not only does it have someone kind of be reflective and say, well, what is my superpower and who am I really? But once you kind of discover that, then you become more aware of how you're spending your time. If you're not good at whatever it is, organizational things or sales things or, math or whatever, then you find others that can kind of fill in that space. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. So I just think it also is a really great tell on somebody and kind of where they are at in that journey. In a very short period of time, you can kind of get a sense of that. And so I use that question almost exclusively in the interviewing process, but it's just a really quick window into that person's level of self-awareness and also alignment around skills and kind of skills around the role that we're looking for.
Perfect. Yeah. And it's so important when we're building that team. Do you find, since this is kind of a heavy hitting question for you, that some people really don't know what their superpower is? I mean, I think sometimes when we're skilled at something and we're really good at it, we're not as appreciative of it, where we can appreciate that somebody else is good at something that we're not good at. So we can quickly see that gift or that talent or that skill. But in ourselves, when we're naturally, good at something, I wonder if sometimes we don't even pay attention. We don't even recognize our superpower.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the natural inclination kind of in the beginning. And I think that's kind of why it speaks so well to kind of that level of self-awareness. Mm-hmm. Because in the beginning, you're like, I didn't even know this was like a superpower because it's just so easy for me.
Right.
But then as you mature and you get into roles and you start working in teams, you're like, oh, this is super easy for me. But why is it taking them
what
so?
What the heck was it? Yeah.
Right. And so then you start to say, well, wait a minute, this is my contribution. This is where I should be showing up. And I think when you're in a team environment, we talk a lot about when to show up and when to shut up. And it's really important to know, like, oh, this is my turn. This is where I'm really good. This is where I have the most value. And then when you're in a place where it's just not as, you're not your skill sets, don't try to fake it.
Mm-hmm.
There's other people that are kind of see things clear, are able to produce in a better way. And that's when you kind of sit back and let them take the wheel for that. And so I think having that level of awareness will allow the team dance to go kind of in a much more efficient way.
Yeah. So what you said, when to turn up and when to shelve it? Is that what you said?
When to show up and when to shut up.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine thinking that way every day, whether I'm in a, company meeting or, even in running my own home, if I'm thinking, okay, when do I need to,
Yeah. And so,
step up and when do I need to step back
yeah, even as a CEO, a lot of times I think, leaders think they've got to lead all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just not the case. Like, if that's not my strong suit, I'm quiet. I don't feel like I need to put in my say. I don't feel like because I'm just going to mess things up and I'm actually going to slow the process down. So I know when we're in details, I am not a detail guy, and that's not the place I should be. And I should not be monkeying around in it.
Mm-mm.
When it's around vision or where we're going or kind of the big picture, that's really where I should shine. And I should be telling the story of kind of what does our future look like? How are we going to get there? And then the other people can come in and kind of fill in those details. But if I try to do both, I'm less effective as a leader.
Yeah. Oh, so brilliant. It's really funny because over the years, I look at my own personal strengths and weaknesses, and being in the profiling business, of course, I'm always looking at it for others, but sometimes I don't look at myself. And one of the things that I'm particularly good at is facilitating conversations, helping people come to a consensus or a decision or get things out. And yet, as an extrovert, oftentimes I want to take control. And so here's my gift of facilitation, which is to get the conversation going and help come to a conclusion. And yet there's this extrovert that says, it's all about me and I want to be in the center of it. And a facilitator is not that, right? A facilitator is just gathering.
Well, and you're displaying absolutely your level of self-awareness, and you just told us what one of your superpowers is.
Yeah. And then the inner battle I have that goes against it, that says this really is my superpower. And yet this extrovert wants a little more center stage, and yet that's not my gifting.
I think one other thing that's really cool about that question is we ask that in our leadership team, and we do exercises and stuff. And oftentimes you find the answer is different. And because you have different kinds of superpowers, so you get these different lenses on people, right?
Right.
And as you as a leadership team, you start to triangulate, oh, that is one of your superpowers, and that's one of your superpowers. And so then even if someone doesn't show up when they should, you can say, hey, what do you think about that? Because already kind of this is easy for them, and they may be taking that for granted right now, and that their opinion is actually more important than they think. And so as a facilitator, you can start to pull those things out and identify who should be showing up when.
So when you're asking this question, Tim, are you sometimes asking other team members, Bill and Joe and Sally, asking about Jill, what do you think her superpower is, or what do you think her talent is? Do you take it that step too?
Yeah, so we've done that, and that's an exercise we've actually done in EO. And I think it's important, if you're going to do it that way, that you've got a safe space and you've got some rules around it. So in a work environment, that can be a little touch and go, because you don't want someone's opinion of someone else coming out and maybe hurting their feelings. And so if you've got rules, kind of around confidentiality and some other things to make sure that you've got a safe space, that you don't feel judged in there, then I think that could be a really fun exercise. But you've got to have the right environment and the right ingredients to kind of go to that next stage, because now you're bringing judgment and opinion into things that could be hurtful.
True. I hadn't thought of that, but it would be fascinating to ask your 5 closest friends or your 5 closest co-workers or 5 people that you aspire to be like, what their view is of yourself. But you're right, it would take some discernment and tact and diplomacy.
Yeah, I think if you're really struggling to kind of find out what your superpower is, and I think you can do it on both sides too, like what's my blind spot? What is it that everyone else knows about me that I don't know about myself?
I'm clueless.
And that can be, those two things can be really powerful, because looking at yourself through someone else's lens is very instructive and can be really educational. But again, you've got to do that in a very safe environment.
Yeah, it's so true. My best friend of 35 years, she's the one I go to when I'm struggling with a decision, even though she's not even close to the same business I'm in or same lifestyle or any of that. And she will be blunt that way just because, I trust her and she cares about me. And I know when she gives me feedback, it's that.
Yep.
But she sees blind spots. I'm like, really? Yes, let me give you an example, Rebecca. And she'll go through the list of all the times I've done that same thing. And
So
it's,
powerful, right? So powerful.
yeah.
It's called the blind spot for a reason, and you just don't
Yes.
see it.
Yes, it's so true. Well, we could talk about this particular topic till the cows come home. It's a fascinating topic, and I'm hoping folks that are listening will ask themselves, do I have that level of self-awareness? And if not, who can I go to that I trust that will give me wonderful feedback in a caring way that can benefit me, not just to discover my own superpowers, but like you said, also a blind spot. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing, Tim. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going to have you back for another Spot On chat.